let's go ahead and move on to the review phase of the model, and Rob's going to start off with the model characteristics.
On the first point, build as advertised. I think this was definitely what I expected when I looked at this out of the box. Very typical of today's ARFs. There were a few things that we mentioned a little bit ago. You'll want to pay attention to those, but overall we gave it a rating of 3.5 out of 5.
A little bit of deviation, not so much deviation, but rather some things that weren't mentioned in the instructions.
Exactly, yeah.
That any modeler, certainly any modeler,
Definitely.
and even some ARF builders are going to understand
Sure.
how to get through some of those steps.
Yeah, this is
and
not
damage
for the
model.
beginner. It's obvious that it isn't, but no, it was a very straightforward build. The finish is outstanding on this plane. We mentioned that when we took it out of the box, and we're not disappointed at this point with the finish. Just a nicely done plane from nose to tail. The fiberglass fuselage is painted beautifully. The wings are covered nice. There's nice trim on the wings, trim on the tail surfaces. Just a good looking plane. Very nice finish. We gave it 4.5 out of 5 on the finish. The power that they recommend for this plane is spot on. We gave it a 5 out of 5.
Yep.
I don't think you would want any more really power on this.
It's not necessary. You can do fantastic climb outs
Yes,
with
you can.
this model, the way it's set up out of the factory.
Yeah, this is not an aerobatic plane. This is not a pylon racer. This is a civilian plane that flies very nicely, very scale. The power is perfect match. So as far as the flight goes, Kurt, how do you rate that?
Well, the flight was good. It was predictable, and I think from a sporty, low-wing passenger aircraft, that's exactly what I anticipated. It met all my expectations. It has plenty of power from that 10-sized power plant, and the low-wing characteristics of the fuselage, the design itself, makes for a predictable, stable, flat and level flight. Great, nice flat turns. Good handling. If you want to whip it around like an aerobat, it's not an aerobatic plane.
Sure.
But it will handle basic aerobatics just fine. So 4 out of 5. Flight time is the next thing. 5 out of 5. We had fantastic flights on this. 10-plus minute flights. We could have gotten even more if we got up and played in the thermals a little bit.
We had plenty of battery left.
Yeah, we did. Every time we brought it down, we had more left than we anticipated.
Sure.
So that's a good sign. But I think part of that is owed to the fact that the power plant with the propeller combination is able to produce plenty enough thrust to be able to run at about about half or slightly less than half throttle on good cruise, good cruise speed.
Which is good because you've got plenty of power left to get yourself out of trouble if you need to.
When you run it up to 100% throttle, you definitely feel the extra power.
Sure.
So great flight times on it. Field size. This is definitely a flying sight. You're not going to want to pop the Cirrus up and down on a park. This is not a park flyer. Don't anticipate to go out in your front yard if you've actually flown some foamies or some electrics in your front yard. You're going to want some glide path. You're going to want to get used to the handling. And like any other plane, while you're getting used to it and its stall speed, you're going to bring it a little hotter than you would once you get used to it.
Sure.
You'll be able to bring in and shorten those glide slopes a little more and more as you get used to the plane. But
and don't be surprised. This thing moves out pretty good.
It does.
It
you
holds.
can see from the flight video,
Exactly.
from the video footage.
But it slows down nicely too, and you can see that in the flight video. When you come around and you drop her down and try to get into a glide path, when you did a couple of flybys, it slows down nicely, but definitely, like Kurt said, it's flying sight. You need room.
Yep. On any slick planes, remember, keep the power on a little bit. You don't want to come in and treat it like a glider. You want to keep that power plant pulling the nose up a little bit, pitching up to give you a good angle of attack on your approach. So a lot of mistakes people make with these is they get nervous and they chop the throttle and they want to glide it in. To maintain your forward airspeed, you've got some massive ground speed. So
the last
keep
thing
that
you
prop
need
on.
is something coming up quick at the end of the runway.
Make sure you have plenty of run out.
You want to give yourself room.
Portability. Now the wings do have a detachable design. You can pop off the thumb screws or back off the thumb screws and actually remove the wings. In all practicality, with the landing gear being on the wings themselves, I'm probably not going to do that.
No.
I'm going to want the plane supported by the actual landing gear, unless I have some sort of rig for it in the car. I'm going to leave the wings on. So I would find myself leaving this plane assembled more often than not. So from a portability standpoint, 3.5 out of 5. Okay. It's not too big. I can put it in the car. It's durable enough that if it's sitting up a little bit on its nose, it's not going to hurt the plane.
Sure.
Skill level is the last category on the pilot experience side, and this is an advanced flyer. You're not going to go out there and treat this like a trainer. It's a low-wing plane. It's a little heavier wing loading than what you're going to find off of a typical electric flyer. Now, with that said, it has plenty of lift and it has great nimble characteristics in the air, but its handling is definitely more advanced.
Sure.
So, if you got the Cirrus in mind and you're thinking about picking it up, Make sure you have somebody to help you through those first few initial flights if you're not an advanced pilot. If you're an intermediate at the crossover phase, I think you could get into the Cirrus very easily and it wouldn't be that difficult. But give yourself the benefit of the doubt and have somebody experienced to be able to grab hold of the sticks and those initial landings and takeoffs just while everybody gets used to the characteristics of the model. But
like Kurt said, this is a great flying plane, but this is also one of those planes that can get you in trouble quick.
Yes.
And it's nothing to do with the characteristics of the plane. It's just the type of plane that you've got here. This is a type of plane that if you don't pay attention to it, don't give it the respect it needs as far as airspeed and handling, you can find yourself getting in trouble. So
yeah, there's a lot of power there, so you can go from slow to fast very quickly, and that can get a little deceiving sometimes. You're on a final approach and you're banking in, you lose the profile coming in, and you're horsing on the throttle a little bit too much, and now you're overshooting your runway. So you don't want to run out of battery while you're learning how to land the thing. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt.
All right, well, we built it, we flew it. Give me your overall impression, Kurt. Now that everything's done, it's a keeper. That was pretty quick.
I keep the Cirrus in my collection for sure. It's a fun flyer. It's not a stick banger plane. It's not something you want to go out and throw in the air and leisurely fly and play as an aerobat, play as kind of a trainer, lofty trainer model. It's an intentional flyer. That's the best way I think for me to put it. Have it in your mind that you're going to fly the Cirrus. You're going to fly this type of plane. Go out very intentionally fly it, and you'll have a lot of successful flights. But I like it. It has all the things I like in an electric. Great run times, plenty of power. It has a beautiful look to it. Curb appeal, bench appeal, hanger appeal. It looks gorgeous. It's a beautiful plane. So I think they've done a really good job here. I think Electrifly's put together a really good package with the SR22 Turbo. One thing too that we can mention as a footnote is landing and taking off and landing. And the site we were using to fly the Cirrus was not our normal flying site, so we had to kind of make some accommodations for rougher terrain. One thing you can do with the Cirrus is you can put a little larger landing gear on it, bigger wheels. Dubro makes some larger wheels. Even if you step up to their 1.86 inch micro wheels, anything that gets a little bit larger and allows a little rougher terrain is a huge advantage. So consider before you fly and while you're building, while you're getting used to it, perhaps on tougher landings, if you come down a little nose heavy, you can really mess up those wheel pants. Leave the wheel pants off and go with slightly larger wheels. Consider them training wheels. It will give you some more forgiveness on rougher terrain, and maybe you can take it off from grass a lot more easily. You have very low ground clearance for those wheel pants on it to be taken off in high grass. So that's one thing you may consider when you get the Cirrus yourself. Get the flights down under. If you have a hard landing surface, different story, but most of us are flying out of grass most of the time. So throw some larger wheels on. You'll have a kind of a fun bush plane, a bush passenger plane.
There you go.
But thanks for tuning in. Any questions you have at all, of course, you can always shoot us an email. But there's other reviews out there, and which you'll also find on the 2bfly.com website is some more information and some photos talking about each of those build considerations that Rob had mentioned on the website, so you can get a good feel before you start your construction project with your Cirrus SR22. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.